We could be seeing people getting vaccinated Monday, Tuesday of next week.
It could just be a matter of days before Americans start to get vaccinated. How many could receive doses in the months ahead? As we wait for that, a local doctor on the state panel that reviewed the vaccine describes what patients can expect from it. And the Navy and Coast Guard scouring the ocean for a sailor believed to have gone overboard from a ship that just left San Diego. ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Virginia Cha. Right now, we are waiting for the inevitable to become official. Emergency use authorization for the Pfizer COVID vaccine. HHS Secretary Alex Azar says that is likely to happen shortly and says distribution could really ramp up in the months ahead.
We're looking at 20 million Americans being vaccinated just in the next coming weeks, up to 50 million total by the end of January. And we believe we could have 100 million actual vaccinations in arm by the end of February.
Now, he goes on to say Americans could start getting vaccinated in just a matter of days. Distribution should begin within 24 hours after the FDA gives Pfizer the green light. To start, San Diego is expected to receive about 30,000 doses of that vaccine. So by early next week, we could see vaccine doses arriving here. And for the people first in line in that list, there are questions. ABC 10 News reporter Marie Cornell spoke with a local doctor who helped review the drug for the state and what people should know before getting the shot.
Dr. Mark Sawyer is an infectious disease specialist here at Rady Children's Hospital. He's also on the state advisory board that reviews COVID-19 vaccines. He says even though a vaccine is on the way, we won't see the impact for another couple of months.
If people suddenly think that we're out of the woods now and stop wearing masks and stop distancing from each other, then we're just going to continue to see the kinds of numbers that we're seeing right now.
In an interview with ABC 10 News, Dr. Mark Sawyer talked about the importance of getting this vaccine.
So the vaccine is safe and it works, and we absolutely need this vaccine to deal with the pandemic.
And despite intense discussions among the FDA advisory panel regarding whether this vaccine is safe to use on 16 and 17-year-olds, Dr. Sawyer points to the research that was done, saying the drug was tested on individuals from that age group.
There's no reason to think a 16-year-old is going to have some reaction that an 18-year-old doesn't have. So I think it's perfectly safe, and I would encourage 16-year-olds to get it just as well.
He also describes the local side effects you may feel after getting the vaccine.
Which means your arm hurts and you may feel a little under the weather for 24 hours after you get it, but that's it. It passes and it has no long-term consequence.
And as we wait for the county to announce their vaccination plan, informing people when and where they can get it, Dr. Sawyer says the bottom line is
everybody can feel comfortable in going out to get this vaccine when it's their turn.
Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
Well, meanwhile, there's an outbreak at the convention center. City officials telling the Union Tribune 120 COVID-19 cases were reported yesterday compared to 27 cases about a week ago. The convention center has acted as a shelter for homeless San Diegans, both as a step toward permanent housing and as a way to allow for social distancing to prevent the spread of the virus because there's so much room there. The Union Tribune reporting the city has been re-examining the safety protocols at the convention center. Well, healthcare workers marched in front of Palomar Health this morning demanding support. ABC 10 News reporter Cassie Carlisle tells us they feel overworked and they say they still don't have enough personal protective equipment.
Nurses say they're stretched thin and maxed out caring for our community during the pandemic, and they say Palomar Health administrators applied for a waiver with the state asking to increase patient ratios, and that, nurses said, was their breaking point. Morning, caregivers held red signs reading "Save Lives, Safe Staffing Now."
Palomar claims that they took a hit due to the pandemic, but it's the nurses and caregivers who are taking the hit in the form of increased patient loads, unsafe staffing levels, and inadequate PPE.
Palomar Health sent ABC 10 News this statement stating they received a waiver from the California Department of Public Health Wednesday that would allow Palomar to, quote, assign one ICU nurse to care for up to 3 patients depending on patient acuity. The waiver, which only applies to one 12-bed unit, which has both intensive and intermediate care patients located in the same area, has not been implemented and is only in preparation for a potential patient surge or reduction in workforce due to sickness, end quote. Nurses say safe levels by law are 1 nurse to 2 patients. Nurses accused the hospital of commingling COVID and non-COVID patients. Palomar said that is completely false and appalling. Reporting from home, Cassie Carlisle, ABC 10 News.
Palomar also said in their statement they always meet or exceed PPE requirements. We just got off the phone with Palomar Health CEO. We're going through that interview right now, and we'll have more in later editions of ABC 10 News. We have some breaking news out of Washington, D.C. Congress just passed a 1-week government-wide funding bill to avert a shutdown this weekend and make time for more COVID relief talks. However, the latest bipartisan relief plan is floundering. A group of Senate Republicans objecting to a number of provisions, pushing to trim the bill down further. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has details on the proposal and the obstacles in its way.
The prospect of a COVID relief deal is growing dimmer, and millions of Americans' livelihoods are at stake.
People are really suffering and going through a lot of hard troubles.
With households struggling to put food on the table, government aid keeping families afloat during this coronavirus pandemic is set to expire at the end of the month. The expiring benefits include expanded unemployment aid, a freeze on federal student loan payments, and a moratorium on evictions.
You ask for patience from your landlord.
But on Capitol Hill, too much patience and not enough compromise, as lawmakers haggle over the details of another bill. House lawmakers heading home for the weekend after passing a 1-week stopgap measure to keep the government funded and buy more time in the stimulus negotiations. Key sticking points remain another round of stimulus checks, liability protections for businesses, and financial aid to state and local governments. Senator Bernie Sanders making a demand Republicans have already shot down.
Any agreement in terms of a COVID-19 relief package must include not only strong unemployment benefits, but a $1,200 direct payment for the working families of this country.
Leaders from both parties blaming each other for the stalemate.
What Mr. McConnell is putting forth in terms of liability is such an assault on Americans' workers that I hope that the group goes nowhere near what he is presenting.
Day after day, the Democratic leader finds new reasons not to compromise, new ways to avoid taking yes for an answer.
The latest report from the Labor Department shows an additional 853,000 Americans filed new claims for unemployment benefits last week, bringing the total number of Americans receiving some form of jobless aid to more than 19 million. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
Now to this developing story off our coast. Navy crews have been searching the ocean for a sailor believed to have gone overboard off USS Theodore Roosevelt. According to the Navy Times, the missing sailor has been identified as 20-year-old airman apprentice Ethan Goolsby of San Antonio. A lookout spotted a sailor in the water yesterday morning. The Coast Guard also assisting in this search. USS Theodore Roosevelt just left San Diego Monday. That is after a long embattled previous deployment in which hundreds of sailors on board contracted the coronavirus, and the ship's captain was relieved of duty over his response. A contentious meeting to elect San Diego's new city council president. The majority of the council voted for Jennifer Campbell, despite hundreds of calls from San Diegans supporting Monica Montgomery Steppe. Many callers argued she would have been the better leader and advocate for racial justice.
She did commit to transparency, and she successfully got Mayor Faulkner to go ahead and fund the Office of Race and Equity. So she's clearly a hard worker, and she is focused on transparency and moving San Diego forward. So please.
About 300 people flooded the public comment portion of last night's virtual meeting. The council voted 5-4 in favor of Campbell. She released a statement promising to help the city overcome a number of challenges, including the pandemic, housing, the economy, and to further reform the system to end racism.